Hi, friends. I'm back in my quiet camper in the secret place. And I wanted to share some more about my experience in solitude. And really, I wanted to talk about how I was feeling when I knew that I needed to enter into a time of solitude. I was feeling burned out, but I also didn't feel like I had a good enough reason to rest, to say no to things, because the things that I was doing and saying yes to looked so good on the outside and could have been very life-giving to me. But for some reason, I was feeling burned out. Have you ever had a thought like this? I wish I could get sick, not like bad sick, but just sick enough to where like I have to stay home and I can't do any of the things that I've got myself into. And I just need a break, like just a short little break, but it would be enough. Or, oh man, like imagining that you've injured yourself to a point where, well, you have to lay. I remember feeling like if I could just do something that landed me in the hospital, where I could still think and process, but I was just enough to be in a closed off space and I was in a hospital bed and I could just get some like rest. And these are like subconscious thoughts. And I know I'm not the only one who does this. I was reading back over my journal from my time of solitude, and day one, I want to read to you a part. So I had been feeling like I was starting to realize I was dangerously tired, as Ruth Haley Barton puts it in the book Invitation to Silence and Solitude. There was this scale, and it was like, where are you on the scale? Well, if I was very honest, I was dangerously tired, even though looking at that before I read that chapter, I would not have said that I was dangerously tired. I was like, no, I mean, I'm doing things, but that's good. But then when I started pressing into, oh, how are you actually feeling? And actually sitting and looking at it, I was feeling worn out. And so here's a little excerpt from my journal. Brutal honesty coming up now. It has just occurred to me that I've been envisioning that I have cancer and thinking of how my life would slow down if and when that happens. Almost as if I was longing for a good reason to allow myself to rest. My mind is looking for ways to give myself rest. That's when I knew. I started to accept, like, oh my goodness, I need extreme rest, and not just a weekend, but I needed to enter into a dedicated time of stepping away from the things that I was doing, even though they were good and life-giving. And so there's this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I read that a year or two ago, and it kind of scratched the surface for me of realizing just how busy and hurried we are. That really, I do recommend that if you are new to the whole idea of spiritual practices, or even if you are feeling the way that I just described, if you have felt that or are feeling that, I would encourage you to read that book if you haven't. But don't stop there. If you have read that book, I would recommend the podcast called The Rule of Life by John Mark Comer. And he collaborates with some people, and they talk about spiritual disciplines such as Sabbath. I learned about Sabbath before I went into silence, solitude, fasting, generosity, scripture, and they're about to start one on community. They have podcasts that they process things, they talk with each other. They have resources. If they have a website that you can go to and kind of run the practice, you can run it in a group with people, or you can just do it for yourself. It has been very helpful for me, and I have listened to the same podcast over and over and over again, and they recommend authors that they read, and so then I've gone and read those books, and that was the book Invitation to Silence and Solitude that I read that came from that podcast recommendation. But I just want to encourage you that if you feel like you can't slow down, I just want to remind you that you actually do have control over your schedule. I know it may feel like you don't, but you do. You are free to make your own schedule. And I know we have these inner feelings. It's like, well, I'm a bad mom if my kids don't fill in the blank, ... I'm a bad friend if I don't do all of these things with these other people. I'm a bad Christian if I don't go to church, if I don't ... I just want to challenge these thoughts that we have that keep us busy in the rat race, but it's actually grating on us and burning us out and wearing us out. You know, we'll be spinning our wheels. I caught myself trying to control God with my prayers. Like, here's another little excerpt from my journal. I'm reading Invitation to Silence, Solitude and Silence, and on the continuum scale that Ruth Haley Barton has on chapter 4, I am fully in a state of dangerous tired. I acknowledge this. She asked, what is it like to hear the words of Jesus saying, "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest"? It feels like I've been moving right past Jesus as I go about my schedule of church and small group, even my quiet time. My quiet time has become hijacked by a need to study the Bible, or a feeling of guilt for not studying, and a compulsive need to try and control God by my prayers. Have you ever felt that way? Perhaps you feel that way now. It can be exhausting, feeling like you need to try and do all of these things that we try and do to achieve a relationship with God, when he says, Jesus is saying, hear him, "Come to me, all you who are weary and you're heavy laden, I will give you rest." He says, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light. Learn from me, follow after me, and I'll show you a better way, freely and lightly." If you long for that, if this is calling out to something in you, I encourage you that you can accept the invitation into the quiet place, into solitude, into experiences of silence and solitude. Make a plan. It doesn't have to be 40 days. It can just be weekly or even daily. Set aside, if you aren't currently having a daily quiet time, I would encourage you to begin to do that and make it a priority. Like, you prioritize your whole day around this, your quiet time or loud time. My friend calls it, she says, it's not quiet, but we call it the secret place, because it's the place where we enter in and it's just us and the Lord, and we can allow our hearts to be fully exposed to him and bare our souls to him unashamedly. And we're not afraid about what people think, because there's no one around to see us. And so if we need to weep and wail, we can do that. And if we need to shout and rejoice, we can do that. And if we need to fall on our knees, or we need to sleep. Ruth talks about this in her book, and I've also experienced this at a silent retreat. They encouraged us. The first thing that may happen is that you need physical rest. a lot of us are just go, 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 go. And so just be encouraged. If you need rest, rest. We've got to get over feeling guilty for needing rest, because we feel as if our worth is tied to our achievements, our ability to produce, our efforts. And Jesus is saying the opposite. Jesus is saying, come to me, rest. He makes me lie down. Like, sometimes he's got to make me. And I felt that, like, God, make me rest. But it's also like, okay, you choose rest. He's saying, come to me, and I will give you rest. But you're going to have to choose me, choose rest. And you will not be sorry. You may be scared. I was scared. Even after all of this time of this practice that I've had, there's still something in me that likes noise, to mask things that it's really hard. We're like, oh, I'm scared to face myself, to face things that we've been shoving into dark corners of our lives. And I will talk more about that later, the things that I experienced. But I just want to encourage you, make time to enter into a place where you can fully experience the presence of God. Because it's powerful. On January 29th, in my time of solitude, I'm pretty sure this thought came from Francis Chan, a podcast that I listened to his preaching online. The question I asked is, can our ways of approaching and worshiping God become idols? Do I value my routines over the presence of God? When we learn to value the presence of God over what we can do for Him, feeling like our worth is tied to that, and just accepting our identity as children of God, and accepting, like, becoming actually satisfied in Him and not activities and things that make us feel good about ourselves, like we have done something to prove ourselves and to compare ourselves with others. This is a rat race, and it is exhausting. And so if you're looking for permission, here it is. If I can help you in any way to feel like you have permission, this is what Jesus wants for you. Come into His presence. It makes me think of Mary and Martha, the story where Jesus and His disciples were coming to their house, and Mary was in there in the living room, she was in there sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to Him. And Martha, poor thing's in the kitchen all alone. Sister won't help her. And she comes out and she's like, Jesus, tell her to come help me. We have things to do. Like, you guys want snacks? You want to eat? And He says, Martha, Martha, you're worried about many things, but Mary has chosen the better portion. It will not be taken away from her. Does that speak to you? Choose the better portion at all costs. It doesn't matter what people think of you. You saying no to things will actually help other people have permission to say no to things too. And people that are unhealed in certain areas, we have these deep wounds that we're often trying to fill with things like busyness, and we want people's approval, so we say yes to things, and it keeps us really, really busy. But let me just encourage you, like, it's okay to say no to something that you've even committed to. That was a big, big struggle for me, because on the Enneagram scale, I'm 6, which means I'm a loyalist. So my word is my bond. Is that what they say? My word is very important to me. So I try to be careful when I say yes. And then when I say yes, no matter what, I feel like at all costs, I have to fulfill it. And actually, I'm learning, if I didn't talk to the Lord about it, if I didn't feel invited, or if all of a sudden it's creating extreme stress in my life to follow through with a commitment, it's like, it's okay to say and acknowledge I just can't do this. And you don't have to have a good excuse. You don't have to have a good enough reason in other people's eyes. Your reason is, if you feel it in here, you are exhausted and you need a break, take the break. Because you know yourself better than anyone else besides the Lord. And if an invitation into rest sounds good to you, do it. If there's a retreat that you can sign up for, do it. If you need to rent an Airbnb, do it. I highly recommend silent retreats. If you need recommendations for silent retreats and you are in Arkansas or Texas, message me and I will tell you. There is a person who does, I know 2 people who lead silent retreats, and maybe even 3. But you also don't have to do it with other people. You can just do it alone. But I know a lot of people don't. The idea of being alone, it terrifies them. They don't feel safe, and so that's legit. And there are opportunities for you. So don't feel guilty for taking a break, for resting, for choosing to rest at his feet. And even if it takes a lot longer than you think you need, I bless you guys.